Hi, I'm Cliff Linderman. I'm the host for MA Talk, and today we are doing a special web seminar, basically, or web interview with the famous Tom Callos, and this is for Marshall Info, which I'm a great fan of, as well as you are. How you doing today, Mr. Callos?
I'm very fine. Now, Cliff, I don't know if I'm famous. I'm infamous, but I don't know if I'm famous. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of Ernie Reyes' students out of San Jose, California. Mr. Reyes, let me be the first to say happy birthday. You've got a 60th birthday coming up. And I might be the first saying happy birthday, and I think it's in July, but I'm terrible with dates and times. So if you're listening to this, Mr. Ernie Reyes Sr., happy birthday, 60th.
And I bet you're still going to have a six-pack, too.
Are you kidding? You know what it's like to have an instructor like that? I want one of those big old guys, you know, that, because when you go around Mr. Reyes, you have to be lean, you know. It's hard. It's hard to compete with a 60-year-old who looks better than you did when you were 30.
Yeah, he's my role model. He is definitely lean and fit. So what are you going to share with us today, Tom?
Well, I wanted to talk to martial arts instructors. Now, this goes for anybody who's a martial arts instructor or a school owner or a manager. I'm going to suggest, in one of those out-of-the-box, you know, thinking things, that each one of us become filmmakers, because filmmaking has become so incredibly easy. You buy a computer now; it's loaded with a filmmaking software. YouTube is absolutely free. It's a great form of communication. And making a film today isn't much different than talking to somebody on the phone, giving a sales pitch, or crafting a good sales letter. And since the YouTube stores all that video online, you don't have to use it on your own computer. And it gives you automatically gives you a link and the HTML language to load it on blogs or on your website. And if I do a really great and compelling video that documents something one of my students did that's really remarkable, I can email it to a principal or somebody in the media or to a potential student or a parent. And that kid who's in the video would, of course, email it to all his friends. It's a form of viral marketing. If you haven't investigated YouTube, youtube.com, it's worthwhile. It's a very inexpensive, very fun, very exciting new form of communication and advertising for martial arts school, and documenting, you know, the good things that schools do. If you go on YouTube and you search Tom Callos, you'll see that I've got, I don't know, 7, 8 videos there. They're like little seminars just to experiment and start to see. I also did a tour of my school online.
I saw that one. That was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's different and it's interesting. And the camera that I use for that is like $65.
And that's just a cheap web camera they use, right?
Very inexpensive. And prior to YouTube, this could not be done. And so for the ability to view a test, what if you had a private lesson with a kid and his dad couldn't be there? And so you filmed it like a little instructional piece, and you spoke to the camera and said, now, Mr. Jones, I'm working with Johnny right now on his front kick, so when you get a chance to work with him at home, would you make sure he's doing this and that? And then you can take that film, take it on your computer when Johnny goes home, and deliver it to his father's email box within, you know, 20, 30 minutes. What a great service, and what a great follow-up. And Johnny you can give tips now. Johnny, when you're watching this at home, remember, I want you to lift your knee. I mean, it's just the tool. And the coolest thing is that most of all of that technology is free.
Yeah, and you know, Tom, over 10 years ago, I was one of the pioneers in digital video editing.
I remember, yes.
And back then, I paid nearly $20,000 for equipment just to get going. The computers, the drive space. Now, I mean, you can get a laptop for like a couple $100, you know, and be able to do this right on your laptop, which is, you know, you could be on the road preparing these things. But people, I think a lot of martial arts school owners are a little bit nervous about, because they think it's out of their realm to do it. But, you know, you've got a whole base of students there that could do that for them and make it real simple.
You know, Nick Coquinos, a mentor to a lot of people in business in the martial arts, the founder of EFC, and a really well-educated, long-term businessman, had 4 pieces of advice for school owners. He said you had to focus on 4 things, and that was cash management, staff training was number 2, advertising and promotion, and the 4th position, or thing that he said you have to focus on, is learning your new job. And things like YouTube is one of those things where a school owner, a manager, or an instructor, that's part of the new, like, research and development. So it's not out of our realm. It's very easy to do. And once you get past the barrier of learning how to use the camera in this, I mean, what a power tool. You know, it's like trying to screw in a whole deck, you know, with your hand and all of a sudden getting a battery-powered screw motor. You know, it just makes the job so much easier. So that would be my first challenge to school owners, to go out and investigate YouTube. You know, if you don't know what to do, go grab a 12-year-old out of the class, and I'm sure he'll be able to inform you. And by the way, for those of you who are watching this interview, because it's being filmed by Farbor Zajak of marshallinfo.com, I'm wearing this hat because we're in California, it's January, and it's like, you know, 60 degrees outside. We are freezing. And so having not a lot of fur on top, I have to wear this hat.
Well, it's really 40 degrees something. You know, for him it's freezing, but of course from when you're around the Seattle area, this is
Hey, I had to put on
home.
2 T-shirts yesterday. All right. But Cliff, the second thing I'd like to talk about is...
I want to add something
Oh,
before we
please
go away
do.
this, because, you know, I turned you on to Skype, you know, using Skype
Yes.
for video conferencing, and more people are using it. And, you know, for me, it's been a great tool. I actually did classes when I was in Hawaii. You know, when I was in Hawaii back in February, I actually taught martial art classes through Skype with my laptop. I hooked up the video camera, I had the voice. My son set up our LCD projector, put my voice through the stereo, and I actually taught a martial art class, and I could see my students.
That might have been a historic first.
I think it was, probably.
You know, there's a lesson here, too, because the things that I love about the internet the most are all free. Skype's free, blogger.com, blogspot.com is free, and so is YouTube. And maybe there's a lesson there for martial arts teachers, you know, that you don't turn around every time and go back to the well and try to get more money. Sometimes you got to let it fill up a little bit. And but anyway, I'd like to talk about the Acts of Kindness program, which coincidentally, Farbor Jacques from martialinfo.com and myself launched together in just after September 11th. And there are, I think, 126,000 individual acts of kindness that are recorded on the site. And we're about ready to redo it so that people can enter mass amounts. So that I know, for example, Chris Natsky in Denver has like 6,000 acts of kindness his students did that he's sitting on because he doesn't want to enter them at one at a time. Mm-hmm. The reason I want to talk about the Acts of Kindness program is because it's still the most underrated, I think, promotional tool for a martial arts school. And an act of kindness is perfectly appropriate with self-defense because it might be the ultimate form of self-defense, kindness. And so getting your students to go out, and each act of kindness is like a form of viral marketing. It's like an advertisement when a student goes out and does something. And I have a new slogan. I borrowed it from a yogi. Her name is Sean Korn, and she used an expression, off the mat and into the world. And I wrote her and asked her and talked to her if I could use out of the dojo and into the world, you know, which is really the new paradigm for what we want to accomplish as teachers. We want to take the education that we work on in the dojo and see it manifest itself in the real world, not just on the mat.
Right.
So that the kids are applying that self-discipline and that focus and the goal setting to things outside of the realm of the martial arts. And then I think we can say, okay, now we're successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, again, I look at martial arts, I mean, if you sell it as an investment in the future, I mean, not coming here and just learning self-defense, but how am I going to enrich your child, or how am I going to enrich you as an adult to be able to take what you learn here and go out and apply it? I mean, that again, you know, puts a high perceived value on what they're going to pay for.
YouTube also, coincidentally, gives you a method with which to document this idea that, okay, my philosophy is out of the dojo and into the world. Now you've got a 9-year-old who takes something out of the dojo and applies it in the real world and accomplishes something. Maybe it's a senior citizens project. Maybe it's an environmental thing. Maybe his brother has some disease and he takes action and becomes a little activist and does education. Whatever that is that the child applies, the focus and the courtesy and all those things that you practice on the mat, if you can make a film of it in YouTube and document it, and actually I've seen an excellent representation of this. If you go to the Ultimate Black Belt Test website, and that's ultimateblackbelttest.com, you search the journals. You go to journals, and there's one of our black belts, Matt Pasquinelli from Ohio. You can search his. He has started to do this excellently. He has a nonprofit school, but one of his students did a project where they made a weekly meal for kids in the mornings that's done through some institution. Well, this kid came in and made it a weekly meal and a science lesson, because he's a science nut, right? Mm-hmm. So he made it part of his belt test, this implementation of a science breakfast. And Matt took his camera and documented it almost like a news show. It didn't take very long. And now Matt's got this excellent video that he can email to the editor of a newspaper or a principal or anybody. And this kid is obviously going to email it to everybody he knows because it makes him a star. And that's how powerful YouTube will be. It'll be just like taking a newspaper clipping and put it on the wall of your dojo, you know, because that was evidence that you had done that. Now you can take that newspaper clipping, animate it, and send it to anybody forever and ever because it's stored on YouTube, and all you have to do is send them the link. It's really amazing.
You know, I didn't even know about YouTube until, actually, Tom, you sent me, you said, check out this my thing on YouTube, and it was your tour of your school. And so then I started using it. You know, of course I bought a Harley in August, and I searched Harley, and Harley sounds for pipes. I mean, people put everything on there. I mean, people are videotaping and making little videos of the sound of their pipes or their motorcycles. I mean, it's phenomenal because you can find almost how to do anything on there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And originally with the UBBT4, we in cooperation with an Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker, we were each going to have $5,000 or $6,000 cameras and film our training through the year. And that means that all the film and things would be sent to the main production facility. I would never see what anybody else was doing, and to produce a film takes a year or longer. Well, now with YouTube, it's more live action, and if I do something remarkable on Friday, it's on the web on Saturday. That means my students can see it, the media can see it, I can send it to people. It is just this, and I didn't talk about it out of chance or for lack of something better to talk about. This is a revolution in communication that martial arts teachers can take and just run with in a way that's unique. So go to the Ultimate Black Belt Test website, see Matt Pasquinelli's treatment of his projects, because I think he's done an excellent job, and then investigate YouTube, because it won't be very long that you'll be out there making films. And what a great thing for a demo team. Your demo team gets out for events. Well, what if they start making films? And those films are half community service, half demonstration. Introducing the team members, talking about what they're doing and what they're going through. They start to become celebrities in their community, because you can guarantee that they're going to be sending their friends and aunts and uncles, and it'll just be a buzz. That's what the whole YouTube and MySpace and all that is all about. It's networking.
Yeah, very good. Well, you've always been on the cutting edge, Tom. I mean, you are the cutting edge guy.
Well, I've got enough cuts to show.
Are you like ADHD?
Yes, I am. But the point is that the arena that I work in is that learn your new job arena. I don't focus on the basics, because Maya has a great foundation of how to answer the phone and how to do all that. All that's been done very well. I focus only on experimental, conceptual ideas like the Acts of Kindness program or 6 tasks, and I'm just looking. I'm trying to look for things that will help us as martial arts teachers, and I think the people who will have the most impact on the martial arts in the future aren't going to be martial artists. It's going to be other thinkers, scientists, activists, writers, and this and that, and we'll start to draw those things in and blur the lines between what is martial arts and art and photography and all these things. And technology certainly helps.
Yeah. So what else? We always do our interviews on the phone, and now I know why. Because when you tap that table like that, that's where we're hearing our sound. Yeah. So don't tap the table. Sorry,
I'm an animated. But anyway, the new slogan is "Out of the dojo and into the world." And remember, I've mentioned this before, but it keeps repeating in my brain. So I have to say it. The way we will sell lessons in the future is you'll say, "Mrs. Johnson, what I do for a living is I teach my students to manifest the philosophy of the martial arts in their lives."
Say that again. Say that again.
What I do for a living is I teach people to manifest the philosophy of the martial arts, the courtesy, the focus, the concentration, the goal setting, and all these things we work so hard on the mat to develop. I teach them to manifest that in their lives outside of my dojo and outside of the realm of anything that has to do with a kick, punch, or throw. Now let me give you some evidence, and that evidence is what's called a project portfolio.
Now before you go into it,
yes.
I want to say why I have you repeat that. The delivery when you say that, sounds so professional. So $250 an hour, which I pay my attorney, it's rather we teach kids self-defense. It's what everybody does. But you're teaching them how to get out and be successful. I mean, as a parent, that's where I'm finding more parents call me now. Where it used to be, oh, do you do tournaments? They really are asking me, well, what do you do? And that's what I do. I talk about manifesting the reality of what we do here outside so they can be successful. And this is what I've heard lately, Tom. That's the kind of school I'm looking for. That's where I want my kid enrolled. And they're not seeking so much the tournaments. I think we're getting the young males that want to do the no holds barred. They want to be able to do submission fighting. But parents with young kids, they're looking for something that will help their kids get above the rest in the academic field and as character building.
Cliff, a man of your age, probably doesn't remember, but for younger guys like me who still have young kids, I have a 7-year-old, I need help. I need help as a parent, and I'm a pretty resourceful guy. My 7-year-old, and by the way, anybody who teaches your own kids, you know what I'm talking about. She's my worst student. Very talented physically, but man, she'll interrupt class. She thinks she runs the class. But even at home, I need help, and that's what a martial arts teacher does. They're part of the village that helps raise that helps parents raise their children. Not the only source, but definitely an integral part of that village. I think that martial arts is more popular today. I think we've expanded the notion of what is self-defense. We have a huge market. We get more free advertising than any other industry, except for the exception of maybe surfing, or skateboarding. Martial arts is everywhere. It's a fantastic thing. What we have to do as martial arts teachers in the near future is break out of the box of thinking of self-defense as only kicks and punches. Self-defense is environmental, it's dietary, it's attitudinal, it's certainly financial. You know, more people will get hurt by their finances than they will by any kick or punch. Right. So we have to, as instructors, start gathering these resources. You know, one of the biggest things that I'm really I think will make a huge difference in how many students we can bring into our schools and what kind of publicity we get on the positive note is peace education. There's no dialogue, there's no constructive dialogue about peace and what it is and what it's made up of. We should be pioneering that. That is traditionally a martial arts subject. We know the violent end, we have to know the peace end, and so developing those resources and making sure people know how do we dialogue about peace? How do you talk about peace when you're 17 years old? Creating resources for that will be the new industry in the martial arts industry, and we will be known for that as yoga is known for whatever yoga is known for. We should be the peace teachers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, for us, it's a key of marketing it, and then how do we organize it so that we can bring that. And I think where martial artists fail and why we haven't grown like we do, it's the fear of your competitor is not another martial arts school. It is the yoga, it is the soccer, it's the baseball, all these other activities that kids can do. And we just need to basically unite and promote that to be able to get us out there in competition with those.
Yeah, and I don't think we're behind schedule. Well, the things are happening as they're supposed to happen. And one of the things that we can attribute to ourselves is martial arts in general is we don't give up. We're just going to keep going, and we're going to get it. And there's a huge movement in the world about developing compassion. I just saw a big article in Shambhala Press, the magazine, about the Dalai Lama taking his main emphasis on teaching children about compassion and empathy and things. This is our market. We can easily do that over a 3 or 4 year period. We have to, I want to go to a martial arts school in the future and hear over the course of a week of classes more mentioning of peace, more mentioning of compassion and anger management and nonviolent conflict resolution. And over the past decade, organizations like Maya and NAPMA and so on have started to lay a huge foundation for that kind of thing. MartialInfo.com disseminates information. They get like 26,000, hits, new hits a month. I mean, we are starting to. There are just so many resources out there. We're on the verge of a new era in the martial arts, and as far as martial arts education and the kind of resources we have available to us. So it's a very exciting time.
Mm-hmm. And just I want to say in closing, Tom. I mean, I've watched you transform, and since I've known you, for 15 years, and he has done so much for our industry. I think is really being an innovator in the intro. You really are the pioneer in that. You've worked with kids programs, developing kids programs with NAPMA and Maya, and I just want to say thank you from the industry because he's paved the way for many of you just starting out in schools, learning the ropes. Mr. Tom Callos.
Well, thanks. I owe a lot of the thing. I stole most of my ideas. I owe a lot of it to people like Jun Rhee and Ernie Reyes Sr. and Steve LaValle, Dave Kovar, yourself, Farboard. I mean, whenever I see a good idea, it's like a magnet. It just let it stick to me. And so I don't think I have a lot of original ideas, and we don't have to go invent new things because it's all back to courtesy, respect, focus, concentration, and coming up with new ways to talk about it and ways to make it more relevant to today. In ancient times, we had to get to the market and back without getting our stuff stolen and without getting hurt. Today, we have to make the journey through life without poisoning ourselves, without hurting other people, in the pressures of today's society with the millions of people more that we have in the world and all the education, all the communication, rapid communication, we have to be more tolerant. We have to be more cooperative, and there are things skills we have to develop, and we are in the perfect position in the martial arts world to educate young people to live in this new world using, common basic principles. They're excited about martial arts, and we are in a position to say, while you're so excited about this, let me introduce you to the idea of this. Mm-hmm. And we need to do more of that, and I think we're making progress, but there's always room for improvement.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for all those instructors who are watching this or listening who have helped me do what I do for a living. I hope that it's in some way that I'm helping you too.